Hey everybody, back here again, and look, I've got another guest, and it's Bill Clements this week, and he's going to be helping us out, and then we're going to interview him a little later. You know, if you remember, each week, we send a prayer list out, and Bill, you noticed all these pictures, didn't you?
Yes.
These are in here every week, and see, you and Virginia are right back there. So we're praying for y'all, and it's good to have you right here with us, and you'll get a prayer list that you can go through and pray for them, and make sure you do that. Okay, but when we left last time, we were having, hey, look, you're in that picture.
Oh, my.
We were having lunch at Valley of the Angels, and Marianne was sitting right across from me, and then you're next to me. So she was guest last week, and you're guest this week. It works out pretty well.
Kind of scary.
Yeah, but you see I have that Coke Zero in the corner there because I finally got a Coke Zero, and that was really enjoyable. So anyway, as we start, we're going to go to another meal. We did do a few things because, we were in Valley of the Angels, and the place that we ate that night was just outside of the road that the mission house was on. We drive, maybe 3 minutes?
Yeah.
Well, depending on how rough the road is,
Yeah.
to get there. And this year, I guess this was the first time they had the pizza buffet set up for us. We usually order all those pizzas and have leftover pizza everywhere. So we thought this would be more efficient. We still had pizza
We sure
left
did.
over everywhere, but it sure was good. Do you remember what kind of toppings you got on your pizza?
Well, there was, if there was ever such a thing as a variety of toppings in Honduras, they do it.
Yeah.
I was
So you
waiting.
like it with more than just one topping on it,
Oh my!
right?
There was never one with just one, other than the cheese. They
Yeah,
had one
right.
cheese pizza
Yeah.
that everybody was holding out for. But no, I love the
Supreme.
Yes,
Yeah,
they were
so
awesome.
do I. We were eating off the same pizzas then. Okay, and after that we go back, and very special time, we have our share time, kind of the last thing we do before we go to bed on Friday night and get up and start heading back on Saturday like we'll talk about next week. But I put this picture in here because Mickey's in charge of our group, and we told you last week he didn't go shopping with us, and you can tell he's
yeah.
not 100%.
Yeah, he's still sick.
And Mickey's hair is always fixed, kind of like yours is always just perfect. But you see, he's got a little rooster tail sticking up in the back, and that's because he was still sick when we got back.
Yeah, he'd been in bed most of the day.
For quite some time,
Yeah.
even. So anyway, he's doing better now, though. So anyway, during this share time, basically what we do at the beginning of the week, and I think I showed you this several weeks ago, we draw for prayer partners. And the person whose name you get, you pray for them that week, and you give them little gifts. And my prayer partner for the week was Johnny Bounds. And so I gave little things to Johnny, and I tried a long time ago not to figure out who my prayer partner was. It kind of spoils the week if every time you get something, I wonder who did this, I wonder who did that. And one time I had completely figured out who it was. It was going to be Kent Dixon, and it was Bill Bounds. So after that I said, no, I'm not doing it anymore. Well, this year I happened to see my name when Carlos opened his little thing, so kind of spoiled it. So Carlos had me, and I had Johnny. Now, who was your prayer partner?
I had Jessica, that's Judy Stewart's granddaughter.
Right.
And this part of our week is one of the more special
Yeah.
things is to have prayer partners and people praying for you
Right.
while you're there.
Yeah, it really is. The gifts are nice, but just knowing somebody's praying for you, and the little notes they give you, they're real encouraging as well.
My prayer partner that I was praying for was someone I'd never known before, and she and her mom, a dentist,
Right.
ironically.
No, her mom was not the dentist.
She is a dentist. Yeah, she did dental
Oh,
work
okay.
in her
Okay.
field. Sure did, and so her daughter wanted to come
That's
with
right.
her, but she didn't want to work with her mom.
That's
She
right.
wanted to do other things, but we'll talk more about her more in a minute. But she was my prayer partner.
Okay.
Her name was Jenna.
Right, and they were from Houston. We've talked about that before. I just kind of got it mixed up because Jody's daughter was Maddie, right?
There you
Yeah.
go.
You see these people for a week, and then you're gone, and ever since we've been back, things have been crazy. So
Sure.
I think I can be excused for that. So anyway, here's a couple. This is kind of not the whole group, but part of the group. I think there were like 25 of us or so up there, and really, really a special time to share. And the funniest thing that happened this time is this is Freddie and Jeannie. They're from CrossFit, and she's a nurse. And I think he works at the paper mill down there,
Yeah.
but he works in the
Electrician.
kitchen when he's with us and does a great job. Man, some of that food he came up with was outstanding. So anyway, he had drawn her name. And he knew that nothing he could do she had recognized. So he had different people write notes to her all week. And she was wondering, how did that person change their handwriting like that? And so he fooled her all week long. She didn't know that it was him. So that was really kind of special. It is a good time when we get to share those things. And here's one more. This is me. Now, I'm not asleep there. What I'm actually doing is writing down who everybody's prayer partner is. So I've got a list of those downstairs. But it really is a good time, kind of a closing of the trip. And we enjoy doing that. Well, you already know that our special guest is Bill Clements. You know, Bill, the only thing I can't figure out is how, I mean, I've heard about your coaching and your teaching. By the way, Larry at lunch today said, you know, he was one of my favorite teachers. That makes you feel old, doesn't it?
No, not really old, but I appreciate hearing that because, you know, all, as your wife knows, all the older students, when they make a comment about you later in life, it always amazes me what they remember.
Yeah.
Now Larry was one of those that was real quiet. He never said a thing. He was like a little church. He was like a little church mouse. He didn't say much in my classroom, but he made an A.
Well, you know, he did say when he preaches he's an introvert. You know, that's what students do.
He was a great kid because I don't remember him much. So
yeah.
He was a good kid.
Well, he did say he was only able to have you one time, and usually when somebody says they're only able to have you one time, it must have been an easy A. No, I'm kidding.
Yes, it's an elective course.
The only thing I couldn't figure out was how you got to be governor of Texas 2 times.
Well, we're not related, even though we have the same last name. But
and the same first name, Bill Clements.
That's
How
true.
about that?
That's scary. Now, there also was a Bill Clements in North Little Rock that was the head of federal housing in North Little Rock for a long time, and I'm not related to
You're
him
not him either.
So
Oh, okay.
Scary.
Okay. All right. Well, Bill, when was the first time you went to Honduras?
First time we had an opportunity in this church.
So the very first trip.
Very first trip,
2006.
That's right.
Wow. That's like 14 years ago now.
Yeah, John Howell was the person who organized it then, and he came to me and asked me if I wanted to go, and I said, no, not really. And he said, well, I've got 2 openings, and I want you to pray about it. And I said, well, what would my job be if I went? And he said, both of them are difficult. And I said, well, let me pray about it. And so a couple of days later, I came back and I said, give me the toughest job you got. I'll take it, because nobody else wants it, I want it. And not that I was trying to be anything cool about that. It was just that I wanted to really find out what this type of missions was all about.
Yeah. And was that the same thing you do now?
It is. Ironically, I'm a scrub.
Yeah.
And that is a term that, it's a medical term that used to clean the medical instruments for both your doctor and dentist while we're in the field. And it's quite tedious.
Yeah.
And that is not my personality. But it basically, you do the same thing over and over again almost 1,000 times every day.
So that's why you got those gloves on.
Those gloves, I'm dealing with a very strong liquid that would probably eat my fingernails up if I didn't let it. But it eats everything, including COVID-19. It would eat it up too. So that's one of the good things. And this year, Daniel, we had a lady in the village. There were several people in the village who came and wanted to just kind of hang out and help. And this younger lady, probably in her 30s, late 30s, early 40s, and spoke no English, but she just was assigned to me, which is rare. And so she helped me put my instruments back where they're supposed to go while I cleaned them. Now, she was over with her bare hands trying to clean them, and I would never let her touch any of that because she didn't know any different. But that was the first time in my 14 years of going I've ever had a person in the village to try.
How about that? You know, that was the odd thing about this village. We've all talked about how small the village was, but how many people were there. And of course, we found out there's another village right near them, and a lot of people from the other village were coming over. But, and like I say, I've told you this before, but the dental clinic is right across from where we were sleeping. In fact, I think I could have taken this picture from my bed, which was, of course, on the porch. Okay, now, here we are eating, and of course, you're eating next to me. See that? I like to get my picture in here as much as I can.
You're doing good.
So, what do you enjoy most about going to Honduras?
Boy, what a great question. In my first few years that I went, I really did feel like, well, we're really North Americans. We really know a lot about how to love the Lord, and I'm ashamed to admit it, but I really thought, you know, we're doing a lot of good things to help these people, and they're all going to we're all going to be blessed. And it didn't take long for me to figure out, when I come home, I'm one that's changed more than anybody. I realize, look how fortunate we are. Look how much we've been blessed by what the Lord wants. And here I have an opportunity just to do a little tiny thing.
Yeah.
But I come home because it allows me to kind of get my roots deeper into the Lord's Word.
I understand. It really, we're always in the mountains, and it always seems kind of like a mountaintop experience.
And it is. It's so.
Even though we work hard, we realize how much good we're doing, so it's all worth it. Okay.
I'll never turn down another opportunity to go, and I don't mean to go like to Honduras, but to go anywhere.
Yeah.
Because I go to Ecuador once in a while too.
Right.
But it's just a great opportunity for any person. If you want to grow in the Lord, you get your hands dirty in missions.
That's right. That's right. Okay, here's your last question. Can you share like one memory from this year?
Well, there were so many memories, and I still think about them often, even though it's been almost 5 months, 6 months. This is the first year I've ever brought my CPAP machine, and we have 3 or 4 other.
Exactly. Billy always has.
Billy Abbott and some of these other guys, they have a CPAP machine, and Jeff Turnage. And so we were in a village with really very limited electricity.
Right.
And ironically, there was a storm. We'd been there for, I think, the second day, and there was a storm that washed a telephone pole out, and all the electricity went out for that night. Yeah. And it was off for almost 24 hours, if I remember, Daniel. Mm-hmm. And so we didn't have any electricity for our CPAP machines as we were sleeping, because it happened during the night.
Right.
And so what was ironic was that the village allowed us to set up a generator to wire it to our cantina.
Yeah.
And so we had a little plug in, and so our CPAP machines were going on. But there was an irate villager who was trying to sleep near that generator, and he kept getting up in the middle of the night, and at 2 o'clock it was unplugged. Jeff Turnage went there and plugged it back in, and at 3 o'clock it was unplugged again. And so 3 different times it was unplugged.
So he just turned that generator off, so you have some
finally the generator was turned off at 4 in the morning, so we made it through the night. But I couldn't help but laugh about who was fighting over the small amount of electricity in that village.
Yeah, that is kind of crazy. Well, Bill, thank you so much for being our guest. My parting gift is those Skittles. You can take those with you.
I love the orange ones. Thank you.
Okay, we appreciate you being with us. And you can leave if you like to, or you can hang around. Most people leave because they don't want to listen to my jokes.
Thank you, Daniel.
Okay, moving on to our joke time now. And as you know, what we wind up doing is we wind up having jokes that have to do with our devotion for the week. And our first joke this week says, my grandfather recently passed, and I discovered in his journal that he had an immense hatred for sloths, monkeys, and koala bears. Looking back, it was obvious. He was always going on and on about those tree huggers. A sloth walks into a restaurant, sits down, and he tells the waitress, I'll have a Coke Zero. And the waitress says, what's with the long pause? You'll get that one later. Okay, and the last one, what is a sloth's favorite snack food? Fritos. Okay, now we'll move on, and we are talking about the three-toed sloth tonight. And, it's funny how you see sloths, and they just look so odd, and if you've ever seen one in person, they move so slowly. But I've got some interesting facts about them. First, there are 2 types of sloths. There are 2-toed sloths and there are 3-toed sloths. But to make it even more confusing, the 3-toed sloth has 3 toes and the 2-toed sloth has 3 toes. The difference is the 2-toed sloth has just 2 fingers. See how this sloth has 3 claws going across the branch? That means that's a 3-toed sloth. Okay, in ancient times, prehistoric times, there was a very large relative of the sloth. It was called the Megatherium, and it could grow as large as an elephant. Wow, that is big. Now, normally, these animals are about the size of a medium-sized dog. And the third thing is that they have natural camouflage. What they'll do is they'll be still, and the algae will actually grow on their fur and make them the same color as the tree, turn them green. Okay, and the fourth thing is they spend 90% of their life hanging upside down. That's just crazy. You know, we have these inversion boots, and people put those on and may hang upside down for an hour or so, but they can do it 90% of their life. And the reason they can do that is because all of their organs are attached to their rib cage, which means they don't move when the sloth is hanging upside down. God is so incredible in creating things that can do special things like that. So anyway, you would think that what would happen if you hung upside down, your lungs, you know, would get where you couldn't breathe, but they're okay. They're fine to breathe that way. Okay, they tend to eat mostly buds, leaves, and tender shoots, but they've also been known to eat insects and small birds to supplement their diet. Okay, now this is incredible. You may not believe this, but they have a stomach much like a cow, which has multiple compartments. And some of the stuff that they eat is very hard to digest, and it may take up to 1 month for the food to digest. Isn't that crazy? And then another really unusual thing about the sloths is they can turn their head 270 degrees, which means basically they can see all the way around, because if you're looking over here and you move your head all the way over here, you know, that covers pretty much everything, almost 360, but 270 will get you a vision of everything that you need to see, and this is beneficial as a defense mechanism for them. Okay, another thing is they have really long claws, as you can see here, which really help them when they're in the trees, but when they're on the ground, you know, it really makes them slow. Basically, their walking is very slow, but they're good at swimming. They fall in the water and they can swim pretty well, and besides that, they can hold their breath, get this, for 40 minutes. Isn't that incredible? Yeah, so a lot of great things about them, but as I said, they are slow on the land. It looks like sometimes they can only crawl 1 foot per minute on the ground. Of course, they spend most of their life in trees and 90% of the time hanging upside down. And you know, it was thought for years that the sloths slept 15 to 20 hours per day, and they still do in captivity, but in the wild, only about 8 or 9 hours, which is similar to average humans. And the final thing that we're going to tell you about them is that they look like they're smiling all the time. You see, it looks like there's a smile on this sloth's face. And what we're going to do is we're going to have a little devotion based on the sloth. It's not a Bible story, because there really aren't any Bible stories about sloths, but the Bible does talk about sloth as being one of the 7 deadly sins, as some people would call it. And that's probably what this animal was named after, because it moves so slow. And, you know, sloth means kind of laziness, or, you know, just not caring about doing God's work. But their slowness is not indifference. They actually, what they're doing is they're doing what God called them to do, okay? All animals have a purpose, and they're living out their purpose. And I want us to learn 3 things about them. First thing is that sloths adapt. And as I told you earlier, they grow algae on their skin. You see that one is so green, it can hide in the trees to stay away from predators. One of the predators of them is a jaguar, so this would help the jaguar from seeing them. Another is a harpy eagle, which probably couldn't see them very well either because of that disguise. And then, as I told you about hanging upside down, how their body is made to live upside down. And you know, Philippians 4:11, Paul's talking about how he adapts. He says, I don't say this out of need, for I have learned to be content in whatever circumstances I find myself. I know how to make do with little, and I know how to make do with a lot. In any and all circumstances, I have learned the secret of being content, whether well-fed or hungry, whether in abundance or in need. So that's just kind of a good thing for us to live by. First, we need to adapt like Paul did and like sloths did. The second thing is sloths are watchful. They're always looking, and because their heads turn. Look at that. That one right there is looking at us, but he's hanging upside down. It's so hard to believe that he can turn his head completely around like that. And so we're supposed to be watching too. It tells us in 1 Peter 5:8, be sober-minded and alert. Your adversary, the devil, is prowling around like a roaring lion, looking for anyone he can devour. Just like they're looking out for the jaguar, we need to look out for Satan, who is like a roaring lion. And the last one is sloths know how to relax. We talked about them sleeping earlier. Look how calm and peaceful this sloth looks asleep. And it tells us in Matthew, actually Jesus says in Matthew 11:28, come to me, all of you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. They know how to rest. We need to come to Jesus so we can know how to rest as well. So that's kind of a lesson that we can learn from the sloth today. We're going to have our prayer time now. You can look at your prayer sheet and you can spend time praying for those that are on it. Let's pray before we finish this part of our time together. Lord, we thank you for the time that we had to go to Honduras. We thank you for Bill and for what he was able to share with us. So we thank you that Bill can be a part of our group in here as well. And Lord, I just pray that you be with us all as we continue to live during this time, Father. Give us courage to come back to church when we can, Father, but also give us the caution to wear the mask and do the things we need to do safe. We ask all these things in Jesus' name. Amen. Now remember, Wednesday night, we're not just staying here at the church. There's free pizza at 6 o'clock, and then there'll be people going up to Salkehatchie at 7 o'clock to watch the fireworks. Now the price for the fireworks is $10 per car, but you're invited to come be part of that. Thanks for watching.